Do you guys remember the scene where Baby Gogurt consumes a bunch of alien lizard eggs?
No.
Like, Frog Lady might not be human, and so like she has more kids, more eggs, but this is still wrong. This is murder and the consumption of a baby, multiple babies. Well, actually, how many weeks of development does a tadpole need before it's considered a life? We're not having that conversation here. But yeah, this might be borderline cannibalism. We don't know what Baby Yoda is, but he looks a lot more like Frog Lady than he does Daddy Din. Do you guys also remember what happens the second Uncle Grief Karga gets Baby Gogurt an IG mech suit?
What are you doing?
He uses his newfound height and mobility to literally rob a fruit vendor. I mean, this is a little bit troublesome. I'm starting to wonder if, Baby Gogurt has some dark side tendencies. Like, is he going to be prepared for being a Force user? The Jedi weren't perfect at protecting their members from the dark side, but how can a bunch of war-loving Mandalorians do any better at raising him? The Jedi always misunderstood the dark side of the Force. When they banished those first Dark Jedi exiles for, being too infatuated with the dark side, the Jedi thought they had solved the problem. But the thing is, the dark side is not just some evil external force, and it's definitely not unnatural like the Jedi always say it is, and you definitely can't get rid of the dark side by just ignoring it. And that's because each and every Jedi, every living being in the galaxy has the dark side inside of them. It's just that the Sith, with their gruesome physical appearances, wrinkly scrotum faces, and clearly evil face paint, were a lot better at embracing the dark side and showcasing its more physical manifestations. The Jedi, through thousands of years of suppression, training, and rules and organization, have managed to hide the presence of the dark side from themselves and from each other, but that doesn't mean they've gotten rid of it. I mean, they even built the Coruscant Jedi Temple on top of an ancient Sith Shrine, which was a Force nexus of dark side power, in an attempt to suppress it. How metaphorical for the foolishness of this organization. You can't destroy the dark side. You can't get rid of it any better than you could, like karate chop air and kill it. It's not gonna happen. It's everywhere. This is why we still have incidents like Anakin killing that village full of Tusken Raiders in an act of revenge for his mother's death. He's only human. Mace Windu even created a variation of the Sith lightsaber form 7, and he called it Vapad. It allows the user to channel their emotions, their quote-unquote dark side energy, into productive strikes and blows. Although, funny enough, only Mace Windu is really allowed to use this form, as it's deemed too dangerous for everyone else. I guess that is the privilege that comes with leadership. And Yoda, the wise and ancient Jedi who has lived longer than anyone else in the Order, he might have mastered controlling and suppressing the dark side within himself, but the reality is it never went away. In the last year of the Clone Wars, when he ventured to Dagobah, he encountered his own dark side. He realized at that point that his teachings, the direction the Jedi Order had gone in for so long, had always been wrong. We cannot simply suppress the dark side within ourselves and declare ourselves as holy and pure. Life is a constant struggle against the dark side within all of us. And the Sith and the Dark Jedi, well, they've simply just given up resisting the dark side and fully embraced it. So in case you're still wondering what exactly is the dark side, well, it's, selfishness, it's possessive behavior, it's fear, which leads to all kinds of terrible things like violence, death, cryptocurrency, paranoia, decay. And it's not only a part of what it means to be a human, it's a part of the natural order of life. If there is no dark side, there can be no light. If there is no struggle to fight the darkness, how can we ever understand what it means to be good? If there is no death, then how can we appreciate life? Now, speaking about darkness, I want to show you guys something kind of crazy. It's the Bat Saber. From ownersaber.com, our sponsor for today's video. Look, you can even see the bat sign engraved into it. We all know that Batman always refrained from using firearms, not because, he wasn't a violent vigilante that ran around leaving the petty criminals of Gotham paralyzed and deceased because of excessive use of force, but because his parents were murdered by a firearm. Or was it a bunch of bats? Maybe it was a bunch of bats with firearms. But anyway, a lightsaber is a much more refined weapon, and it can dismember pretty easily. We all know Batman liked leaving his calling cards around the city to instill fear into the hearts of criminals, and nothing says, hey, it's me, than a very unique weapon that creates a very unique wound pattern. The Bat Saber comes with both the robust RGB blade, which is great for sparring practice in one's Batcave. And there's also a pixel blade version as well, which has a LED strip running alongside the entire length of the blade, which allows you to do all sorts of cool kind of special effects. Check out ownersaver.com in the description below for more information. All orders will receive a free display stand and free shipping. Offer ends May 7th. You guys can also use my promo code EWOK, that's all caps, for $10 off. Thank you for your patience. On to the rest of the video. And so when I first saw the little baby Go-Gurt, Holy Be Thy Name, I was so infatuated by his cuteness and innocence. Sure, the little guy might be around 50 years old, but since, his species lives so long, he might as well be a 5-year-old, and he kind of acts that way. And I'm ashamed to say that, when I first saw him in Din Djarin's care, I was a little worried about this. I almost thought maybe it's better if he returns back to the Jedi Order, or at least has a Jedi teaching him, right? I was getting increasingly nervous about the idea of this strange Mandalorian bounty hunter raising this kid. In their first outing together, after Mando Dad kills the IG bot, all he proceeds to do is to kill things in front of this youngling. When they make it back to the Razor Crest and found it on cinder blocks, because Din was stupid enough to park it in a neighborhood full of filthy Jawas, instead of approaching the Jawas calmly and trying to negotiate with them, Din Djarin proceeds to murder these Jawas in cold blood. Look guys, I love my occasional human supremacy jokes every now and then. And yes, using a disruptor rifle on thieving Jawas is probably a part of Din Djarin's religion. And let's be honest, it's really one of life's guilty pleasures. But I'm an adult. We're past our formative years already, and I grew up with a steady diet of South Park, Jackass, and 80s action films with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I already have all that chaos and degeneracy grandfathered in. There's no saving me. But young innocent Go-Gurt, should we be tainting his little green mind with all of this violence? But then I thought to myself, Alan, you're being a hypocrite. You're the one who's always complaining about the Jedi Order's complacency, arrogance, and false sense of morality. And now we finally see another culture attempt to raise a Force user, and the second, Din Djarin starts practicing his religion vigorously, you bail? No, I don't think that's right. The reality is Baby Go-Gurt has probably seen more messed up things than just a bunch of Jawas getting vaporized. The little guy survived Order 66 and saw many of his close guardians and mentors get gunned down in cold blood. This little guy already has PTSD. His refusal to use the Force in those earlier scenes is a clear sign of this. What's interesting is the first time we see Baby Go-Gurt actually use the Force again is when Din Djarin is fighting that Mudhorn. Poorly. The little baby essentially holds the Mudhorn in the air and allows Mando Dad to finish it with a knife. Now we can view this as Go-Gurt getting the assist for the kill, or we can see this as Baby Go-Gurt just trying to help his friend out. It is completely defensive in nature, this use of the Force. It's not perverse. The real problem here is the fact that Din Djarin, despite being well-meaning, continues to take Baby Go-Gurt on very dangerous adventures. At first I thought this was just the way, you take your younglings, your foundlings into the field and teach them how to handle themselves. But then more recently, we saw the Children of the Watch, we saw how they kept their children away from danger. Yes, there are occasional hiccups because of the, local fauna, a giant turtle monster here, a giant bird monster there. But yeah, not even Paz Vizsla, the most meat-headed member of his tribe, will put Ragnar, his son, in danger, needlessly.
Take the children inside.
So what the hell is Din Djarin's excuse? Well, you could argue that since the Empire is after Go-Gurt, that Din Djarin feels it's safer keeping the little guy with him. The more cynical side of me also believes that maybe Din Djarin sees having a Force user on his side during his missions as a huge advantage. But then again, that's just my mindset. I'm not a Mandalorian or a warrior. Maybe Din Djarin has respect for Go-Gurt's skill, and maybe by taking him into the field, it allows him to train the little guy and mentor him. That's exactly what a Mandalorian should be doing, right? Once the foundling is ready, you train them. Din Djarin should know if Baby Go-Gurt is ready for the field better than me. He's a fighter. He's been fighting all his life. And so maybe that's what's going on here. And seeing how Din Djarin has behaved in all 3 seasons of The Mandalorian, I can honestly say that he's actually a really good guy. Even the prejudices that he holds against droids and basically every native fauna he comes across in the galaxy is very relatable. I don't trust my smart household appliances, and if it's not a dog or a human being, to me it's just food, because my culture has suffered generational famine trauma. But still, all throughout the Jedi and the Mandalorian history, these two organizations have always been at each other's throats. They both are warrior societies, it's just that one embraces the violence while the other one tries to limit it. I guess you could say that the Jedi have always denied what they truly are, and the Mandos, they were always a bit too eager to embrace that violent side of themselves. Very eager to embrace that violence. Only Tarre Vizsla was able to bring balance to both sides by dipping his toes in both sides. Perhaps that's what Baby Go-Gurt has in his own future. Because the way I see it, the Mandalorian culture and traditions are ill-suited for teaching a young Force user how to control their abilities. But there is hope in Din Djarin. He's not perfect, but a parent doesn't need to be perfect. They just need to be present, understanding, and hopefully instill some good values in Gogurt, which Din Djarin definitely has done. And more importantly, Din Djarin has showed us that he's willing to do almost anything to basically protect baby Gogurt from pain or harm.
So unless you're gonna take off that helmet, it's gonna be me going in alone. But say goodbye to your little green friend.
You're not going alone.
This love and security is something you just can't get at the Jedi Order. I mean, you guys remember that time when Ahsoka and Barriss Offee got trapped under that droid factory on Geonosis and Master Luminara was all like, oh, leave them, Anakin, don't become attached to them. I mean, what kind of psychobabble nonsense is that? The thing is, though, Din Djarin can provide a lot of the security and love and, values that a young child might need, but he just doesn't understand the Force. He's like completely numb to it. So, maybe he does need like a Jedi tutor on the weekends, hire Ahsoka Tano. It looks like she's not doing much right now, right? But then again, Gogurt made a choice when Luke gave him his ultimatum. And he chooses not to be a Jedi, but he still continues using the Force, which could be troubling.
But you may choose only one. If you choose the armor, you'll return to your friend, the Mandalorian. However, you will be giving into attachment to those that you love, and forsaking the way of the Jedi.
I mean, no wonder Luke Skywalker ultimately failed. Despite being raised outside of the Jedi Order, he has embraced all of the mistakes that they have made in the past. And young Gogurt, he's wise enough to understand this, which is quite incredible for someone his age. I know some people didn't really like Gogurt returning to the Mandalorian, but this was always going to happen. I mean, Luke, not EU Luke in the new Jedi Order, which was full of love, compassion, but canon Luke is completely lost and dejected. I mean, what was baby Gogurt gonna do? Hang out with Luke until Kylo Ren comes along and then rage quits and murders everyone? Well, actually, now that I think about it, maybe baby Gogurt would have had enough strength to take on Kylo Ren. See, they got us talking about the sequels now. This is how it starts. Make a terrible trilogy and then fill out the lore with some awesome TV shows. Damn you, Lucasfilm. Damn you, Disney. Most movies only get 90 minutes to make their case. So baby Gogurt made the right choice. And I actually believe Mando Dad will continue to stop baby Gogurt from his darker tendencies, like, eating babies and just stealing stuff for no reason. Baby Gogurt definitely is not gonna be perfect. He's gonna be pretty messed up. And yeah, he might have some darker side tendencies, but I'm pretty confident he's not gonna become some mass murderer. Unless it's like eating baby eggs, right? And I guess all of this depends on how much effort Din Djarin is willing to put into baby Gogurt. And I gotta say, there's one thing that's really awesome about the Children of the Watch's culture, and that is the importance they place on future generations. And so, yeah, maybe Gogurt's gonna be all right. Not Gogurt, Din Grogu.